Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. And now, Tider Insider TV.
But you won't say roll tide when you walk by. You won't start and say, hey, roll tide.
I don't ever say that to anyone first.
Got it. Okay.
It's my response for them.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome in to Tider Insider TV. Alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris. Our program, as always, brought to you by Buffalo Rock. And, of course, that means great Pepsi products. Pepsi, a Southern original. Tonight, ice-cold Diet Pepsi. Love that sound, but let me tell you something. It tastes even better going down. Down and down. Pick up some great Pepsi products the next time you're at your local grocery store. Well, Rodney, you ready? Because I hate when we have to lead off with a story like this, but it happens sometimes. And for Alabama, it's not the best news. Defensive lineman DeShaun Hand, the senior who's poised to have a huge season on the field, was arrested early Saturday morning and charged for driving under the influence. However, the Tuscaloosa News' Aaron Suttles reported yesterday that Hand was actually asleep in his car in a parking lot, a parked car, at the time of his arrest. The keys being in the car with Hand in there constitutes DUI. That's what led to the arrest. Alabama opens fall camp on Thursday. We will hear from Coach Saban following that first practice. But first, let's hear from you, Rodney. Obviously, you'd like to get through the summer and get into fall camp without any issues like this. It seems like Alabama's had a few of them. I don't know if it's because it's the final weekend before fall camp and guys want to get out and have some fun or what it is. But his status now being brought into question by people like us, the media. Nick Saban will handle it internally, so you and I don't know what will happen in regards to his playing status against Florida State or in any other game. I do know this, Rodney, before I turn it over to you, because I think I've heard a lot of people saying Nick Saban's light on punishment. I've talked to people, and I know you have too, who have some inner knowledge of how it works. When these guys are asked to do something in terms of internal discipline, it's not like they go out to school and speak one time. There is a very vigorous program put in place that they have to fulfill those obligations in order to be in good standing with their coaches and their teammates. So a suspension could come. I'm not saying that it won't, but when you hear internal discipline, I think a lot of people just kind of raise an eyebrow. But, Rodney, they really do hand down severe discipline for these guys when they get off track.
Yeah, they do, and not only that, Gary, I think there's obviously some programs that that have to go through, have to complete when these types of things happen. So not only do they do things, as you mentioned, physically, but they do have the programs that they do. And, you know, Alabama probably has some of the best awareness programs.
Absolutely.
You know, in DeShaun Hand. And if you look at this situation, the thing that's really disappointing is, first of all, I think DeShaun Hand's a good kid. There's no question about that. I've never heard of him having any issues since he's been here going into his senior year. But this is very disappointing for him because, you know, here's his opportunity really as a senior, a guy that's been around the program, so much expectation for him, and now he's got his opportunity to really blossom this year, be a starter, be a leader, and then this happens. With that said, kind of knowing the type of person he is, just being around him, getting a feel for him, Gary, I think he'll use this in a positive way.
And one thing, and Bethany's telling me to wrap, but I want to address this, and I'm not shifting the blame. As you pointed out, DeShaun Hand is in the wrong. He's an adult in terms of being a 4-year player here. He's 21 or 22 years old. This is a big year for him for Alabama, a big year for his draft potential, so he messed up. But I do think the fact that he was not driving the vehicle, that he was asleep in a parked car. Yes, it's DUI, but I think the discussion needs to be had, or I think it's fair to have the discussion that maybe the punishment for that could be a little bit different from actually operating the motor vehicle, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, there's speculation that maybe the charge will be reduced or whatever it might be, but, you know, we'll see. That remains to be seen.
We will. And the Florida State game, though, with or without DeShaun Hand or anybody else, is on. It's basically a month away. September the 2nd, the start of fall practice is a couple of days away, and there are always plenty of storylines at the outset of fall camp, in addition to DeShaun Hand. Rodney, what are you looking for as the Tide gets back out on the practice field? I mean, I know every year when we go to the first practice, we just sit there and go, Look at those guys. Look at that guy. Look at that guy. You know, a lot of big, fast, strong athletes. But what are you going to be looking for in particular at first day of practice?
I think it's like every year, like you're just talking about. I love to walk through that gate on the first practice and kind of get a look, get a feel for the team. A lot of new faces on this team. Gary, a tremendous recruiting class that they brought in. 16 of those guys went through spring practice, and to be honest with you, is just my personal opinion based on my observations, this is as good looking of a group of 16 players as I saw in the spring. I'm really anxious to see the other 10 guys that have come in to join this recruiting class that now will be freshmen at Alabama. Really excited to see those guys. Obviously, they have a lot of new faces defensively. Great opportunity to get a look at some of those guys.
Yeah, it is, and I'm with you. And one thing I mentioned this to you on the radio show because there aren't a lot of areas where you look and say, well, that could be a problem area. I am worried about the place kicking. J.K. Scott's a terrific punter. I don't know how he would do if he had to be the regular place kicker as well. Papanastos, the Ole Miss transfer, struggled during the 8A game, and Bulovas, the freshman, is coming in here. I think that's an area that they've got to try to shore up pretty quickly. It could cost, if you're in tight games, place kicking can be the difference. And I do think as good as Alabama is, there'll still be some tight games this season. Well, Nick Saban went through the ESPN car wash last week. No, he didn't take that fancy Mercedes up there to Bristol. It's the day where the coach pretty much did all of their shows, radio and TV, on the ESPN family of networks. And he got question after question and gave answer after answer. He talked about the national championship. He talked about this year's team. But he also had an interesting take on how the playoffs could be restructured, saying that the teams in the Power 5 conferences should only play Power 5 conference teams, and they should eliminate needing 6 wins to get into a bowl game. Here it is. You can have a different kind of scheduling that is more fan interest, more good games, bring out the better quality team, and whether you expand the playoff or have a system where it's like now, just take them all there would be more opportunity to play more teams in your league, as well as to have more games that people would be interested in. All right, I see it both ways, Rodney. I'm a fan of FCS football. I've seen a lot of great Division I AA or old Division I AA teams. At the same time, it's not Alabama or Texas or USC put in Power 5 schools' job to support those teams financially, even though that is a lot of what happens when they play these teams. Your thoughts on playing Power 5 only versus other Power 5?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that it's not a bad deal there. I like that idea. Would be, it'd be fine with me, to be quite honest with you, Gary. I do think that sometimes some of these other games are, we've talked about this before, playing some of the smaller schools in the state if you're going to play some of those teams. What do you think about that?
Well, Saban, when he was at LSU, played other teams from Louisiana, smaller schools. Alabama's just had that long-standing tradition of not playing other schools in the state other than Auburn in the SEC. Now, I think this Power 5 versus Power 5, changing the playoff and all the bowl game structuring down the road could get a little bit of traction. Right now, I don't see it happening anytime soon. For one thing, schedules are already pretty much booked for a number of years, so I think that it will stay the way that it is. But I do see Saban's point. Like you said, in the NFL, you don't go play the CFL. Right. You play strictly NFL teams, and that's why a lot of people think he needs to one day be the commissioner of college football, because he has a thought and a plan for just about everything. Well, don't forget, Tide fans, Alabama football's annual Fan Day is set for Saturday, August 5th. Saturday this year, okay? This Saturday, not Sunday, as has been the case most every year I can remember. An open practice will be held in Bryant-Denny Stadium from 2:30 to 4:30, with players and coaches available for autographs on the field starting at 4:45. Now, fans may enter the stadium beginning at 1:30 through gates 9 and 19 and sit on the west side of the lower bowl. The open practice is scheduled to last approximately around 2 hours, and this is it. This is the only open practice for regular fans all fall camp, so it'll be a big day on Saturday. Well, still to come on TITV, hear from former Alabama players as they make their rookie debuts at NFL training camps. Marlon Humphrey makes a big play right away. He's catching some eyeballs from Ravens coaches. A lot of these Bama rookies are looking good. We'll hear from some of the former Bama greats coming up next on the show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. We'll also get to your phone calls, emails, and tweets. The phone number is always 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Email us at TITV@WVUA23.com, or you can tweet at us on Twitter. Remember to use that hashtag TITV so Bethany and Brandon can find your tweet. We'll be right back with more Tider Insider Television right after this.
It felt great, man, just to know that you putting pads on with a group of players that you working with right now. And it was just a thrill, bro. Just finally putting some pads on.
Finally is right. Welcome back to Tider Insider TV with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. NFL training camps are underway, and a number of rookies from Alabama are already making an impact. Rod, heading up north to Owings Mills, Maryland, the top Crimson Tide player chosen in April's draft, Marlon Humphrey, showed everyone exactly what he's capable of. He picked off backup quarterback Ryan Mallett last Friday in practice. I think Bama picked off Mallett a little bit when he was at Arkansas, too. Watch that. That's just good timing, and, he's got ball skills. And tell you what, making a lot of people up there that had doubts about Humphrey. Ravens fans happy already. So there's Humphrey with a pick. What about Reuben Foster? He never had an interception at Alabama. Do you know that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you knew that. 3 interceptions through his first 4 practices with the 49ers, and he has really, really got people excited out there in the Bay Area. Former Alabama players putting in great work to prepare for the fall. It's nothing new, and O.J. Howard and Cam Robinson say they owe much of their early NFL success to playing for the Crimson Tide.
It's like an Alabama LSU matchup every day, and that's exactly what it is. It's an SEC game every day for me. It's no non-conference game, and everybody's good. You have to have great technique, and it's more mental than anything.
Honestly, the speed hasn't really been too big of a difference. I played at a pretty good college program, so that hasn't really just been too devastating for me.
The SEC has more former players in the NFL than any other conference, and it's still probably the closest thing in college to the NFL, and Alabama's the best of the SEC. So no surprise that these guys move on and make quick impacts.
Yeah. I think Cam Robinson, for example, here's a guy that played against the best of the best all these 3 years in practice every day. Mm-hmm. So you talk about the SEC, well, he competed every day against the best pass rushers, against the best players in the country. I think that's one of the advantages to coming to Alabama, if you're a prospect, certainly. You compete against these guys every single day in practice for 3 or 4 years, 5 years, whatever it is, and that makes you better every day.
54 former Bama players right now in training camps, Rodney. And you know what? There have been a couple that didn't make it. And that gets put out there, well, Alabama guys aren't as good in the pros. But you know what happens? All the ones that are superstars, like the 5 guys that went to the Pro Bowl last year, all the guys that are really playing well, you don't hear about them. You hear about the one, the Trent Richardsons, the DeMarcus Milners, the ones that don't do well. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that seem to get all the publicity because people, again, Alabama's the big dog. People want to see Alabama fail. The truth of the matter is, under Nick Saban, a lot of Alabama players are making huge impacts in the NFL.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can go look at some of the guys you mentioned. Mark Ingram, Eddie Lacy has made a big impact. What about Dre Kirkpatrick? Several guys that have done really, really well. So I think the percentage is much, much greater in Alabama's favor in terms of success they're having in the NFL than the other way around.
And of course, in my opinion, the best offensive player, non-quarterback in the NFL, to me, is Julio Jones.
And then Amari Cooper as well. So
yeah, he's going to be great as well. Yeah. Roll Tide. Well, still to come on TITV, the Alabama baseball coaching staff is complete. Find out who will be making his return trip to Tuscaloosa. And next, your phone calls, emails, and tweets. There again, the information on your screen. The phone number 205-348-9882. Phone lines are open, so call in now. Hey, practice starts this week. Let's talk some football. Of course, we'll talk other sports as well if you want to call us. You keep it tuned to the show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, the one, the only, award-winning Tider Insider TV. We'll return right after this timeout. First-year Alabama head baseball coach Brad Bohannon has officially completed his coaching staff. Bohannon announced yesterday the hiring of Brock Bennett as the volunteer assistant coach for the Tide. He played at UA from 2007 to 2011. He was most recently a coach at Georgia State. So Brock Bennett is coming home. Before we go to the phone lines, quick recruiting note. Dominic Wood-Anderson, junior college tight end, looked good for Alabama, but Tom Herman in Texas, hey, folks, they're going to be a force in recruiting. And a little bit of a mild surprise, Wood-Anderson choosing the Longhorns over the Crimson Tide just a few minutes ago.
I think he gave a lot of schools indication that he was coming, and I'm not sure this one's over yet, to be honest with you, as far as Texas is concerned too, Gary. Tom Herman, they got to win some games.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the phone lines. First up, Sammy in Walker County. What's up, Sammy?
Hey, Gary, Rodney, thanks for taking my call. Two-part question, Gary. First, how did you enjoy the tomatoes? And related to the football question, right tackle, me and Rodney had talked about this before. Last 10 years, we had Fluker was a big boy, but we never have been real strong. Then we get Jonah Williams, but I understand they're going to move him. But I don't know what is the prospects for young guys at right tackle.
All right, Sammy, we'll get to that. First of all, the tomatoes, just like you said, the best ever had. Vine ripened beauties from Walker County. Right tackle, you got Matt Womack's a possibility, Scott Lashley, a lot of young, talented guys going to vie for that position, but they are unproven.
Well, I think right now Matt Womack finished spring with running with the ones, whatever that means for now, because certainly it's going to be very competitive once spring practice. Well, once August camp gets started here this week. I think with Womack at right tackle, you mentioned Scott Lashley. He's an extremely talented guy. Alex Leatherwood is another young player. It's a true freshman that I think is going to compete at that spot. And they may even look at moving Lester Cotton out there, working some from right guard to right tackle, and give that a look, and maybe try somebody at inside, maybe a Deontay Brown or maybe even Leatherwood, try him inside. There's a lot of combinations that they can work. They're going to really work that, Gary, here in camp to try to find the best five, the best fit. And yeah, I think Jonah Williams, Sammy, I think he's going to do a really good job on the left side.
Yeah, a lot of talent for right tackle possibilities, just not a lot of experience. All right, let's go to Bluff Park and talk with Rick. Rick, welcome in. What's up?
Hey, fellas, how y'all doing? Appreciate you taking my call.
Yes.
Got a multi-part question here. I'd like to know the status of the recruit from Sebastian, Florida, who Alabama could not sign last year because of the numbers. Also, I'd like to know how Josh Jacobs has grown since he's been there, what kind of weight he's put on, and what his role will be this year. And also, I'd like to say something about Anthony Averett. He really came on strong last year, but we'll lose him this year probably along with Ronnie and Minka. Could you comment on that also? Again, I appreciate you taking my call.
All right, thanks, Rick. First, Jerez Parks, the recruit he's talking about, a lot of people want to know, is there a chance he could still wind up in this class this year?
Well, I don't think that's going to happen right now, but Jerez Parks expected a gray shirt, which would mean he would sign or come in January, join the team for spring practice. But he's an outstanding player, there's no question about that. Rarely do you get a top 100 player that agrees to delay his enrollment like that.
But should be here in January,
should
you
be.
think? All right, Josh Jacobs, yeah, he's getting bigger and stronger and faster, and he was already pretty good as a freshman. He's got a lot of talent.
I think Josh Jacobs now is listed about 212. I think last year he was listed at 204, so he's put on a little bit of solid weight. I think he's a really versatile player. I think they're going to utilize him in a lot of ways. You can put him in the slot as a receiver. He's a great running back. He can do so many different things, and I think he's really going to be valuable because Brian Dable has the experience, Gary, the knowledge, and all of those things of utilizing these guys in a lot of different ways. And I think that when you look at Josh Jacobs, he fits perfectly for what Brian Dable likes to do.
And finally, Anthony Averett has been solid at corner. You're right. They're going to be losing some secondary guys. That's a point of emphasis in recruiting. They've already got Jalen Armour-Davis committed. They're going after some DBs.
Got to get them. I mean, listen, if there's cornerbacks out there, Gary, they're looking for a place to play. And, I mean, you can't find very much in terms of the way they develop the players, develop the defensive backs here, the corners. This is the place to be.
All right, thanks, Rick. Thanks, Sammy. Phone lines, though, are open for the next segment. So if you want to get through, 205-348-9882 is the number. You can call now. You can send us an email, or you can tweet at us using the hashtag TITV. But phone lines are open right now. It'd be a good time to call in and ask a question or give us a comment. We'll be back with more TITV right after this. Keep it tuned to WVUA 23. All right, so Bama Hoops in just a moment. Right now, the phone lines are open. I'm surprised by that. 205-348-9882. That's 348-WVUA. Call right now if you want to get involved in the program. I have all these people that tell me I can never get through. You can get through right now. Well, Alabama basketball fans, make sure you head to Coleman Coliseum tomorrow night from 6 until 7 p.m. The Crimson Tide will host an open practice as the squad makes final preparations for that trip to Canada. You'll get a chance to see the Crimson Tide in action and take a look at this great freshman class, man. I mean, Sexton, Petty, Herb Jones, Alex Reese, Galen Smith. They all have a chance to be good players. Former players Levi Randolph, a former Crimson Tide player, had a lot to say about the program, and head coach Avery Johnson. We spoke with him today.
He has great visions for the program, and I see things going in the right direction. We have a great recruiting class. We have great guys returning. I think the senior class now was the freshman class my senior year, and I know what they can do, and I know the heart that they have. So I feel like the program is going in the right direction, and I see big things to come.
Levi Randolph on the last Alabama team to make it to the NCAA tournament. So the dry spell has been going on now since 2012. It's time for Alabama to get back, and they should have the talent to do it. Now, you still have to go out and win the games, but this is a good-looking roster, Rodney.
Yeah, it is. A lot of you really talented young players, and the Giddens kid that I don't know if you mentioned him or not, but he's going to be somebody to watch.
Daniel Giddens, a transfer from Ohio State, is eligible this year. Again, tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, check out the Tide at Coleman Coliseum. Well, Rodney, we want to send our best wishes out to former Alabama great Marty Lyons, who I had the pleasure of sitting right here with and doing one of my in-depth 30-minute conversations with last year. Great guy, a great player with the Jets, and now doing some radio work for the New York Jets. He is doing much better after suffering that mild stroke at his home in New York a few weeks ago, and should be back to calling games soon. But I'm telling you, not only he was a great player, he's been a great representative for Alabama, came back to get his degree, as you see there. That's one of the things I talked to him about when we sat down. And very articulate gentleman, and just want him to do well.
Oh, absolutely. You know, Gary, you talk about some of the great players at Alabama in the 70s when they had a great run like they do now. Marty Lyons was one of the best.
You know, that's the thing about Marty Lyons. Some of those guys they had there, Byron Braggs, they could play now. I mean,
absolutely.
All right, are we going to get a phone call? Nope, we're going to go to break. We're going to go to break, and we are going to come back and wrap up this edition of TITV. Pretty evening. Man, football's in the air. It was chilly these last couple of mornings. I was driving back from the beach this morning. Ooh, could have used a sweater. Not really, but it was cool. We'll be back after this. All right, listen up. We're reaching out to you, the best fans in the country, to see if you have the ultimate Alabama fan cave or Bama memorabilia room. If you have a den, a basement, or someplace in your home that is decked out in tribute to the Crimson Tide with memorabilia and decorations, we'd love to feature your fan room or cave on Crimson Tide kickoff this fall. Email Brandon Cameraman at bcameraman@WVUA23.com. Let us see your pictures. Let us hear your story. We want to feature you this fall on CTKO. Well, we always want to feature our beautiful original elephant wear shirts and ties from the Locker Room downtown in Tuscaloosa. Shop in person or go online and shop at their website, locker-room.biz. They'll make you look like $1,000,000. I'm telling you, they know what they're doing. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching TITV. Have a great night, everybody. See you next week.